crazy.
And you've been in a lot of those Sacramento Summer League games, so you know all about those.
Oh, it's riveting.
Matt Barnes still with us. Kendrick Perkins still with us from Houston. And guys, I want to get to some comments from Warriors owner Joe Lacob. These are courtesy of The Athletic. Quote, "It is very unlikely," Joe Lacob says, "I've said that we're not going to trade for anybody that people are expecting. Very unlikely, not impossible. But if it was going to be somebody, it was going to be somebody really great. It's going to be a big trade, but that is, again, unlikely." So, as that relates to Steph Curry, if he extends his deal with the Warriors this summer, which he has the opportunity to do, he can re-sign for 4 years, $215 million.
Oh, my.
Now, by the way, he could just not sign an extension. He could let it sit. But that means that he would then become a free agent the next summer, and that other teams could offer him 4 years, $207 million. So there actually is not, in this case, huge financial incentive to stay with the Warriors or sign that extension. But there is a lot of emotional incentive. Mark, we know that Steph Curry, that tie he has to that organization, how proud he is of the core that they have there. Do you expect him to sign the extension this summer, or keep them a little bit on pins and needles to see what they do over the next year, even if he does intend to stay?
I expect him to sign it, and I think Matt remembers when Steph had these ankle issues early in the people wondered if he'd ever get to that place where he's special. Well, now he's on the opposite side of his career, and you see guys get hurt. Special. I just can't see him turning that much money down. I know he loves it there. The Bay lives and breathes him. He's like second to Jesus in the Bay.
I would say it's
I was about to say he might be tied with Jesus in the Bay.
Yeah. I don't see him turning that down. I see him finishing his career being very wealthy in the Bay Area.
I mean, Matt, you were a teammate of his during some of those times in Golden State. They were a little harder. You think no matter what the Warriors do, he's signing that extension?
Yeah, I mean, I think Steph Curry will be a lifer in Golden State, and I think if he had his way, Clay would also be a lifer in Golden State. So I definitely don't see him sitting or waiting. Obviously, it's going to be a poker play, but, at the end of the day, he is someone who's changed the game of basketball and brought championships to that town. He's one of these guys that you'll see, like a Kobe. He'll be in one uniform for his entire life. So that's the way I feel personally.
And Perk, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about this, right? Because Matt Barnes mentioned earlier in the last segment about how LeBron at one point in his tenure in Cleveland kept signing 1-and-1s to keep putting pressure on the Cavaliers front office. We certainly saw Kevin Durant when he was in Golden State sign 1-and-1s. So if Steph Curry decides not to go that route, if he signs that 4-year extension, what else can he do, Perk, from a player's perspective to keep that pressure on the front office, to get a player in there who's more on his timeline, who's ready to win a championship now, as opposed to some of the younger guys they brought in the last 12 months?
Well, I mean, to me, he just got to continue to be Steph Curry, and that's been the most, far as hybrid point guard that we've seen in a long time, best shooter in the game. Here it is, Rachel, right? When you look at this Golden State Warrior team, right now, with Clay coming back, this team, to me, is a top 3 team in the Western Conference with Steph Curry fully healthy, with Draymond Green, with Andrew Wiggins, right? The emergence of Andrew Wiggins. I always said that Andrew Wiggins will be a perfect fit with this Golden State team, being a third option guy. He showed us that last year. He started to become one of the best two-way players in the game. The way he was locking in defensively at the wing position, he was delivering, around 18 points a night. So I'm looking at this team, the makeup of this team, and they drafted well. I'm like, look, you have the Lakers, you have the Utah Jazz that are healthy, you got the Suns, and then you got the Golden State Warriors that are right there. So at the end of the day, to me, I'm looking with a healthy Clay coming back, with him getting back in rhythm. You still got to watch out for the Golden State Warriors. They don't have to make a big move.
I like to add a little bit to that, too, and I think, Rachel, your question was, what does he have to do to continue to apply pressure to that front office? I don't think he has to do anything compared, like Mark said, where he came from. Right. There was a lot of, do we really want to build around him? He proved that they made the right decision. And I think they have a great understanding they know that their window rides on Steph Curry's shoulders. So I think that front office is going to stay active. It may not be a big splash this year, but they're always looking to improve that team, whether it be a star or adding more depth to that bench, because that was the secret weapon to that team. Obviously, those starting fives were great. great, but they had great depth on that bench. So I don't really think Steph has to do anything besides be himself, be great, stay healthy. And that front office is right there, respecting him enough, knowing that, our window rides with Steph Curry.
Yeah, and look, everyone knows Bob Myers wants to win. So It's not like he needs some incentive to win. Joe Lacob spends money. Yeah. But look, the larger organization also has to worry about its future. And I think Perk's right. Steph playing at Steph MVP level the way he did at the end of this season, that Goran Dragic's option, that was for more than $19 million. Now, according to Woj, there is a very important reason for that. They intend to use that cap hold as part of a sign and trade deal to try to grab Raptors point guard Kyle Lowry as they position themselves to be the front runners in the Lowry sweepstakes. So guys, look, it is a lot going on. To join us and discuss all the storylines, our senior insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. Welcome back, Woj. This is a huge day for you. I know you're going to be on your phone most of the afternoon. What is the very latest on the Kyle Lowry situation?
Well, Rachel, I think everything's in place when we hit 6 o'clock Eastern to get moving on a Kyle Lowry deal to the Miami Heat. Goran Dragic, Precious Achiuwa, their first-round pick in Miami last year, a really good young player out of Memphis who I'm told would be part of the Heat's package to the Raptors to try to get the kind of sign and trade offer that would entice the Raptors into helping Kyle Lowry get to the Heat. They don't have the cap space to sign him, but if you incentivize the deal enough with Toronto, I think there's a pathway to a deal, and certainly the motivation for Kyle Lowry to get to Miami to join Jimmy Butler, his good friend, a player who really fits the Heat identity and certainly fits their timeline of win now. So I think everything's in place for Kyle Lowry to be a member of the Miami Heat, perhaps as early as tonight.
Interesting. And look, we were saying when Kyle Lowry was not dealt at the trade deadline, wow, does this mean he's going to leave Toronto for nothing? If they can work out a sign and trade with the Raptors, however, then he won't be leaving, quote, for nothing. So Masai Ujiri coming out with something on that deal, again, like Masai often does. I want to move on to Kawhi Leonard. He also opted out of his deal. Does it appear he will be back with the Clippers? Because one thing we were thinking was maybe he would keep this year and then just work out an extension. Instead, he did do the opt-out.
He did, and I think it's some contractual gymnastics. Listen, he can do any number of things with his deal. He could do a 1+1. He can do a longer deal. He's going to spend this year rehabbing most of the season, if not all of it, coming off that ACL surgery. But the expectation is that he will return to the Clippers. The kind of contract it'll be is unclear, but I think that Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers, certainly the Clippers are proceeding as though he will be back, and how they're planning to handle free agency, handle their cap, knowing that they're going to be minus him this year, but the expectation is he certainly returns at full strength the following year. And who knows, maybe there's a way he can return late in the season in LA.
Well, look, they were very competitive all the way up through the middle of the Western Conference Finals without him. So that has got to give them some good feelings going in there. It's so interesting. We played the clip at the top of the show. It was your voice, Woj, talking about how after he left Toronto, we were in the helicopter car chase part of Kawhi's free agency. None of that this season. Just shows you how fast things move in this league. Yeah. Chris Paul, another huge name. He opted out of his player option for that last year. Does his future still, though, appear to be in Phoenix?
It does, Rachel. And I think both the Suns and Chris Paul are really motivated to get a deal done tonight. They can do a long-term deal, perhaps 3 years. Moving forward, he'll be 37 years old next year in the playoffs, but you saw the high level Chris Paul was still playing at this year, just like Kyle Lowry, mid-30 point guards who are playing, at all-star level later and later into their careers. But I think that the motivation is there, the desire for the Suns and Chris Paul to get a deal done. I believe they will.
And it's interesting, we've talked about some of the players, but there's teams still who are going to have some cap room today, too, whether it's New Orleans, right, the New York Knicks, the Dallas Mavericks just cleared some space. Do we expect any smaller deals with those teams, or do you think that's going to be more in the next few days?
Well, I think you'll see a flurry of action tonight. Certainly the Knicks, they want to keep their own free agents Nerlens Noel, Alex Burks, Derrick Rose, all players I think they'd like to keep there. If Goran Dragic ends up in Toronto, whether it's a trade or an eventual buyout, I think there'll be a lot of interest in